In this video, you will learn how to solve two-step equations. This might seem kind of weird, but solving an equation is kind of like unwrapping a gift. Let's look at why. Let's start with the gift itself. When someone hands us a gift, we don't know what's inside until we open it. When the gift giver wraps up the gift for you, the first thing they might do is put it in a box. And then they put a pretty bow on the top. Now it's time for them to give you the gift. You have no idea what's inside, but you know what to do. Let's open the gift. The first thing is, let's take off that lovely bow. Wouldn't want that to get ruined. Next, you open the box, and then you can see what's inside. You finally know what the gift is. It's no longer a question. Here's why that silly analogy makes sense in this situation. When you unwrapped the gift, you performed opposite steps from what the person did when they wrapped it up. When you first started unwrapping the gift, you had no idea what was inside. But once you were done, you knew exactly what the gift was. To open any gift, you perform the opposite steps until you know what the gift is. That applies to equations because to solve an equation, you perform the inverse operations until you isolate the variable. Inverse just means opposite or work backwards until you can get the variable all by itself on one side of the equal sign. When you first learned about the order of operations, you probably learned PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiply and divide left to right, add and subtract left to right. But when you're solving an equation, you're working backwards. So you can think of it like SADMAP, add and subtract, divide and multiply, exponents, and then parentheses. But don't worry, there's really no need to memorize that. It's just one way of thinking about it. One quick reminder before we start with some examples. The equal sign is the center of the equation. Remember that the two sides have to balance at all times. Whatever you do to one side of an equation, you have to do the exact same thing to the opposite side of the equation. Let's get started with example number 1. Solve for n. 5n plus 4 equals negative 26. I still strongly recommend that you draw that line down through the equal sign. That will help you keep everything balanced and remind you that whatever you do on one side, you'll do to the other side. Let's look at how this equation relates to the unwrapping gift analogy. This n is your gift. It's your unknown. You don't know what it is until you get to the end of solving this equation. So when the gift giver wrapped up the gift, the first thing they did was put it in a box. In this case, the box they put it into was times 5. Then they put the bow on it. They added 4. Now when they handed it to you, you need to first take off the bow. So you need to undo the plus 4. We do this by subtracting 4 on both sides of the equal sign. That is step 1. Remember, this is a two-step equation. On the left side of the equation, we now have only 5n remaining. On the right side of the equation, we have negative 26 and negative 4. When we put those together, we have negative 30. Remember, we're trying to isolate the variable or get the variable all by itself. So the next thing we have to do is get rid of that times 5. We do that by dividing both sides by 5. This is our second step of this two-step equation. On the left side of our equation, dividing by 5 has done the trick. We've isolated the variable. 5 divided by 5 is 1, so we're left with just n. On the right side of the equation, negative 30 divided by positive 5 is negative 6. It's important to have a way to check your answer. In this case, we're going to figure it out mentally by plugging in the answer that we got where the n is in the equation. I'm rewriting the equation with the negative 6 in place of the n. Now I have 5 times negative 6 plus 4 equals negative 26. That gives us negative 30 plus 4 equals negative 26. Now, if negative 30 plus 4 is negative 26, then that means we have the correct answer. So we have a negative and a positive, and when we add together a negative and positive, we have to do subtraction. 30 minus 4 is 26, and we use the sign of the bigger number, which is negative. So negative 30 plus 4 is in fact negative 26, which means that our solution of negative 6 was correct. Example number 2, solve for n. 12 equals n over 9 plus 1. Draw that line down the middle of the equal signs. Then look for your variable. N is the variable. The gift box it was put into was the divided by 9. The bow put on the box was the plus 1. So we first need to undo the plus 1. Undo plus 1 by subtracting 1 on both sides of the equation. We write this by writing minus 1 underneath the plus 1 and underneath the 12. We've done step 1 now. 12 minus 1 gives us 11 on the left side of the equation. And on the right side of the equation, subtracting 1 leaves us with only n divided by 9. Now we only have one step left. N is being divided by 9, so we need to undo that by multiplying both sides by 9. This is how we show that. Remember when we were working with algebra, we don't want to use the x as a times symbol. Just put the 9 in parentheses on both sides of the equation. That represents times 9. On the left side of the equation, 9 times 11 is 99. On the right side of the equation, the 9 on the top cancels out the 9 on the bottom, leaving us with just one n, or n. So we have 99 equals n. Now we can check our answer to see if it's right. Let's plug in the 99 where the n is in the equation. 99 divided by 9 is 11. If 11 plus 1 is equal to 12, that means our solution, we got it, 12 equals 12. That tells us that n is equal to 99 in this case. Example number 3, solve for y. Negative 8 minus 3y equals 25. Y is our unknown or variable. First, it was wrapped up by multiplying by negative 3, and then negative 8 was added to it. So we need to undo the negative 8. So we write plus 8 on both sides of the equal sign. On the left side of the equal sign, we only have negative 3y remaining. A lot of times people will forget to bring down that negative. Don't forget. On the right side of the equation, we have 25 plus 8, which is 33. We still aren't quite finished unwrapping the y. Now we need to divide both sides of this equation by negative 3. Remember, when we're working with equations in algebra, dividing is shown with fractions. So to write divided by 3, we put a fraction line and a negative 3 underneath. On the left side of the equation, that leaves us with y, which is isolating the variable, getting the variable by itself. And on the right side of the equation, we have positive 33 divided by negative 3, which is negative 11. Let's see if it works. Plug in the negative 11 where the y goes in the equation. That gives us negative 8 minus negative 33 equals 25. Let's rewrite that minus negative 33. It's really the same as plus 33. So if negative 8 plus 33 is equal to 25, that means our solution is correct. We have negative 8 and positive 33, which means we subtract 33 minus 8 is in fact 25, and 25 equals 25. That means our solution of y equals negative 11 is correct. Here's our final example. You won't see very many like this year, but I thought it was important to make sure you saw one. We have s plus 3 all over negative 2 equals 2. Now in this case, that s plus 3 at the top is a grouping. Remember, if we reverse the order of the operations, we work with the groupings last. So our first step is to get rid of that divided by negative 2. We do that by multiplying both sides by negative 2. Remember, we don't show that with an x for times, we show it with parentheses. Now we're trying to get that s all by itself. The only thing being done to it now is 3 is being added to it, so we need to undo the plus 3. Step 2 is to subtract 3 from both sides of the equation. That leaves us with s equals negative 7. Let's check and see if it works. Negative 7 plus 3 divided by 2 equals 2. Well, negative 7 plus 3 is negative 4. Negative 4 divided by negative 2, we have a negative divided by a negative, which is a positive. and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So we end up with 2 equals 2, which is true. So that means our solution of s equals -7 is correct. Now you should know how to solve two-step equations. Thanks for watching.